From cotton to fiber, from weaving cloth to dyeing and production, one piece of the garment goes through hundreds of steps before it reaches the consumer. That is why, even now, the textile industry is still a labor-intensive industry. China's textile and apparel industry is not only highly labor-intensive, but also heavily dependent on foreign countries. This industry is crucial to ensuring China's foreign exchange reserves and solving employment problems in society. The scale of China's textile industry is the largest in the world, with annual fiber production alone accounting for more than 50% of global output. Textile and apparel exports amount to $316 billion, accounting for more than one-third of total global exports. Now, with a large number of orders moving out of China, the textile and apparel industry in China is experiencing unprecedented challenges in more than 20 years. In July 2022, the China Textile Industry Federation released data showing that from January to May 2022, nearly 27% of China's textile enterprises suffered losses, with losses 6% larger than those of the same period last year. Total corporate profits fell by nearly 20% year-on-year. The printing and dyeing industry faces an even more severe situation. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, in the first 5 months of 2022, 35% or 588 of China's 1,684 printing and dyeing enterprises suffered losses, with losses 15% larger than those of the same period last year. The total losses reached about $230 million, a 42% jump from the same period last year. Since 2022, the prices of natural gas, electricity, cotton yarn, and logistics and transportation costs have all risen significantly, reducing the profit margins of enterprises. The Chinese media, China News Weekly, described a textile factory owner as follows. Qinbo's factory has seen a 20 to 30% decrease in orders in the first 4 months compared to the same period last year, and the cashback cycle has increased by 2 months. The textile industry is in a thin profit industry, and Qinbo estimates the profit margin to be about 5%. After a busy year of work, in the end, we found out that there is no money to be made, and maybe even a loss. This textile owner said that in the past, it only took 3 or 4 days to make fabrics from Shaoxing City and ship them to Europe and the US. The whole cycle from receiving orders, producing goods, shipping to customer receiving was about 2 months. Now the whole cycle has increased by about 2 months in total. The longer transaction process means more money is needed to run the business. He says it now takes 30% more money to turn around than in the past, and the interest on this part also adds to the cost of the business. In terms of raw materials, the U.S. banned imports involving forced labor from Xinjiang in 2021. This restriction on export requirements has resulted in some of China's textile and apparel export orders having to be produced from imported cotton instead. The high cost has significantly reduced the profit margins of the textile enterprises. The operations of Chinese garment and textile companies have suffered major disruptions in 2022. Mainly because of the Beijing government's stringent zero-COVID and prevention and control policy, which affects more than just logistics. Since late March 2022, the outbreak of Omicron in China has led to the implementation of extensive blockades in the key production areas for China's textile and garment industry. In mid-April, Jiangsu Province Textile and Garment Industry Association conducted a survey on the impact of the lockdown and control measures on 199 large textile and garment enterprises in the province. The findings showed that nearly 85% of the enterprises reported a decrease in operating income and tight liquidity. As a result of the control measures, trucks entering and leaving the port and cross-regional transportation were blocked. Raw materials and equipment could not be shipped in, and products could not be shipped out. The preventive measures also led to an increase in labor costs.
间要保持相互的尊重，你不要跟我吵，你跟我吵，我有权利把你带走。好好说话，好好说话。
The consequences of last year's major power cuts have also been evident in this year's orders. The power shortages that occurred in the summer and fall of 2021 devastated the textile industry. Take, for example, the main town of China's printing and dyeing industry, also known as the Blueprint Fashion Town. It accounts for about 1/3 of mainland China's printing and dyeing capacity and is home to the largest concentration of printing and dyeing textile industries in Asia. September and October are the peak seasons for this industry in China. From September 21st, 2021 until the end of the year, the local government has implemented a power restriction policy requiring the printing and dyeing industry to operate on a 10-day cycle with 4 days on and 6 days off. This power restriction policy swept across the country. For example, clothing factories in Guangzhou were required to operate for 2 days and shut down for 5 days at the time. As a result, factories were unable to fulfill their orders on time, seriously damaging their business credibility.
明天放假一天，为了配合供电部门错峰应电，这个夏季我们工业区会经常轮流休息，大家要有心理准备，这样也会导致你们的工资下降。不只是我们厂这样，整个城市都是一样的。
看看有没有这种世界末日的感觉，停电的。 没有电的人都活不了了。东北电力不足啊！
我靠，没电了，完了下不来了。我。
According to the professional data published, the new orders index of China's textile industry in the first quarter of this year dropped 29 points from the fourth quarter of 2021. China's official media, China Business Network, reported that a head of a small textile enterprise recently said, "This year is indeed very slow, and it is even more difficult than 2020 as orders are at least 40% lower than last year." He also added that the situation of the surrounding SMEs is more or less the same. The beginning of the year experienced the erosion of profits due to the increase in the price of raw materials, while the price of products could not be raised, and now the orders are poor. A recent survey conducted by the China Textile Importers and Exporters Association showed that 85% of the enterprises indicated that the outward shift of customer orders was more obvious. According to the association's estimate, the size of the order shift for textile and apparel in China will be around $6 billion in the first half of 2022. Cotton textile orders are mainly transferred to India, and apparel orders are mainly transferred to Bangladesh, Vietnam, India, Indonesia, and Cambodia. The person in charge of the China Textile Importers and Exporters Association said it is expected that in the second half of the year, losses of China's textile and apparel orders may be accelerated, reaching about $10 billion. Among them, the loss of cotton textile orders is around $2 billion, and the loss of apparel orders is around $8 billion. In Southeast Asia and some other places, labor costs are relatively low, and industrial support capabilities are gradually increasing. Since 2022, under the relatively lenient anti-epidemic policy, the production and operation of some enterprises in Southeast Asia have basically returned to normal, and export orders have grown significantly. According to Vietnamese media reports, in the first 5 months, Vietnam's textile and garment exports totaled $18.7 billion, an increase of 23.5% over the same period in 2021, and enterprises' export orders have been scheduled until the end of the third quarter. According to data from the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, from January to March 2022, Bangladesh exported about $11.79 billion of textile products and clothing to the world, a substantial increase of 46.1% year-on-year, and the growth rate rebounded by 46.3 percentage points compared with the same period of the previous year. As a member of the Southeast Asian countries, Cambodia also delivered a good report card. According to its General Administration of Customs, in the first 5 months, Cambodia's total exports reached $9.412 billion, up 34.5% year-on-year. Among them, exports of clothing, shoes, and travel goods reached $5.2 billion, accounting for 55% of its total exports. Since 2022, India's economic fundamentals have steadily recovered, with a good manufacturing boom and continued rebound in consumer confidence. Data from India's Ministry of Commerce and Industry show that in March 2022, India's exports of all types of cotton yarn, fabrics, apparel, hemp, and carpets totaled $3.82 billion, up 19.4% year-on-year. On a fiscal year basis, from April 2021 to March 2022, India's cumulative exports of all types of cotton yarn, fabrics, apparel, hemp, and carpets totaled $39.23 billion, a significant increase of 41.3% year-on-year. Many Chinese textile companies have also accelerated moving their production lines to Southeast Asia in recent years. In 2019, mainland Chinese companies invested 32% of the total textile production capacity in Vietnam. For example, on March 30, 2022, one leading Chinese textile company disclosed that its wholly owned subsidiary was planning to invest a total of approximately $210 million in the construction of a production base for woven and knitted fabric products in Vietnam. According to China's official media, China Business Network, a Chinese silk industry owner made a calculation of business cost. In terms of labor, the silk reeling factory is most in need of female workers. Although Vietnam's population is small, mature labor is abundant. The daily working hours in Vietnam are 9 hours, and the daily salary is about 100 renminbi, which is cheaper compared to the domestic 8-hour daily salary of 150 to 200 renminbi. Southeast Asia and India also enjoy special duty-free policies when exporting garments to Europe, America, and Japan. It means that profits can be increased by more than 10% in comparison. With the addition of labor and other factors, the combined cost of individual products for Chinese textile enterprises after they have moved to Southeast Asia can be as low as 1/5 of what it would be if they were made in China. 21st Century Business Herald in China reported that Chinese companies with factories in Myanmar said that their export customers are more supportive of having their factories in Myanmar, and some even state explicitly when placing orders that products must be made in Southeast Asia. While foreign orders are declining sharply, domestic consumption in China is not optimistic either due to a number of factors. From January to May 2022, the total retail sales of apparel, footwear, hats, and textiles in China declined by 8% year-on-year, with the total retail sales in May declining by 16% year-on-year. The drop in orders from China's textile industry has directly manifested itself in terms of employment. The southern metropolis of Guangzhou is a major textile trading hub in China, attracting many workers to the city. Every year after the New Year, in particular, many companies set up teams in industrial areas or on the roadside to recruit employees with sample clothes. The pay for one day can reach more than 600 renminbi, making the phenomenon of employees picking companies a common occurrence. However, after the New Year 2022, the phenomenon of employees pick and choose the companies is no longer seen. Instead, there's a huge crowd of job seekers with a large number of workers going around looking for companies that are recruiting.
The pay is 6 RMB or 89 US cents an hour. The market is bad now. The factory is not doing well. All jobs are 6 RMB per hour. There are more than 1,000 vocational school students from Guangxi, and the boss only needs 200 of them. Are you willing to work or not? It's up to you. All jobs are 6 RMB per hour. If you want to change the salary, go to the boss yourself. 6 RMB.
This is Suzhou, Jiangsu Province. Today's video will take you to the streets of Suzhou and check out an incredible scene. We can see the side of the grass is full of people, and all of them have suitcases with them. I guess they came to Suzhou for work. What a scene. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. There are at least 1,000 people here, if not 800, judging by a glance at the scene. Now it's all the graduation season. Many students are looking for jobs. We see this place is densely packed with people. Because the manufacturing industry, including the textile industry, concerns the employment of China's huge population, the Xi Jinping government had hoped to move financial institutions away from real estate to the textile industry or other industries, as China's real estate industry has planted a huge landmine in the overall economy. But it doesn't seem to be working. There are too many non-performing assets in China's real estate industry as well as the banking system. They haven't been dealt with properly, and financial institutions aren't willing to let go. As we have described in previous episodes, China's financial sector is controlled by the powerful Princeling Party, and in part by former party leader Jiang Zemin and his partner Deng Qinghong's group. As a result, China's financial institutions are engaging in a game with Xi Jinping's central government, and the textile industry has received no additional assistance. Moreover, the strict zero-COVID policy has dealt a near-fatal blow to the industry. Since 2010, China has been the world's largest manufacturer for 11 consecutive years, including contributions from the textile industry. China is the world's largest cotton producer with a history of thousands of years of textile production and many inexpensive and relatively stable workforces. However, while China continues to supply the world with inexpensive garments, its air, land, and waters are paying a huge price. As we have previously reported, 80% of groundwater in China is contaminated. The textile industry produces a lot of wastewater, which costs about 20 US cents per metric ton to treat. It's something manufacturers are not willing to pay for. The dye they use not only contains heavy metals and cancer-causing substances, but also inhibits the growth of organic substances. For example, when sewing clothes, the threads are often soaked in starch paste, which breaks down into organic substances that absorb oxygen from the water, killing fish and turning the river water into a filthy sludge. Back in 2006, government investigators raided a textile printing and dyeing company in Guangdong province and found a pipe buried underneath the factory, dumping 22,000 tons of waste dye into the nearby river every day. Pollution is an obvious concern, but driven by the need to maximize economic profit, neither the factory nor the local government has much desire to spend the extra effort to solve the problem.
你看看这鱼啊，这鱼这儿呢，这鱼啊，看看这都蹦出来了，这都完了。
In May, hundreds of children in a county in Henan province suffered nosebleeds, and parents took their children to the hospital for checkups. A video of long lines at the entrance of the hospital went viral on the internet. Netizens reported that a textile factory in the county was emitting polluting gas, and the pungent smell caused children in the surrounding area to have frequent nosebleeds. Some parents also had the symptoms of nosebleeds and dry cough. As a traditional pillar of China's national economy and an important industry for people's livelihood, the textile industry is now in an epic crisis. On the one hand, textile enterprises in the midstream are at a distinct disadvantage compared to Southeast Asia because of the country's land, labor, and energy costs. On the other hand, upstream enterprises such as cotton and chemical fiber production are lacking in core technology, and the downstream textile and garment industry has no quality brands. The overall structure of the industry is like a spindle shape, and this shape determines that China's textile industry looks big but is not strong in essence. After more than 20 years of success, the long-standing environmental damage accumulated by China's textile industry is almost irreversible. Its vulnerability will be completely revealed in 2022. For many in China's textile industry, they have already felt the cold of winter this summer.